then? When did that sort of stop, that you stopped going?
Well, I was 15 when I started going, and it was already open.
Yeah.
So that's 50 years ago. And then I moved down to Cornwall when I was 20.
But it had stopped.
And I think it had stopped because Dave and Chris stopped. I think they split up.
Yeah.
People that ran it. And then it just closed up.
I think I was about 18 when it closed.
Because then it was the sea angling and Romani's, wasn't it?
Yeah. Or Robertson.
Sorry, sea angling and Romani.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That way. This is how it was, but one corner up where there's a gorse bush and a very ugly building. But the shop front was very much like that, with the door on the angle, and that side window would have been where the painting of the lady was. And there were bumblebees on the front.
Right.
And the company car, which was the hearse, was parked out front. Yeah. And the bubble machine above the door. And we would have had both of those shops.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it was bigger.
We had, they were smaller records, still made of Bakelite, but it was the Andrews Sisters Strip Polka, I always remember, because we used to have one of those old record players that you wound up with a big speaker. And I did exactly the same thing, put them in hot water to make
a useless fruit bowl.
Yeah.
With a hole in the bottom.
Yeah.
So what happened? Okay, so what was a typical weekend like for you then?
Typical weekend.
So would you meet your mates there and then go for a drink and then go to a dance or something? Or?
No, on Friday nights it was jazz club at Virginia House, and Maggie Kane and I used to go to Virginia House at about 6:30 and climb through the ladies' toilet window and wait in the ladies' toilets, because it was 2 shillings to get in. So we'd wait in the ladies' toilets until people started coming in, and then we'd go out and mingle.
Brilliant. Love it.
And then we'd stay in there, because we didn't really drink, I don't think. We couldn't afford it. It was 2 shillings. You know, that's all I used to get from scrubbing my grand's floor. And then there were usually art college dances, weren't there?
Yes, there were. Yeah.
Up at Sam's on the Hoe, or at Virginia House.
Scrappers Ball.
Yeah. And we'd go to those, or to parties. Somebody would have a party and we'd go there. Didn't know whose party it was, you just turn up.
Right.
Yeah, and we used to, now and again we'd go to the Somme, like on a Saturday afternoon. And I'd
after
meet
school?
After school, yeah. And meet Sue and Val and Annie.
So were you were mates at school, right?
Outside of onto public. But we knew the same people and the same boys, you know, and went out with the same boys. In between one of us going out with Gray Williams. We went through a list once, didn't we?
Yeah.
Did you go with Dow? Yeah. Go with Gray Williams?
I did go with
You didn't go with Dow, no, I did. Yeah.
I mean, what's fascinating to me, because I know some of these people, right? And I don't think I was exactly like them at the time. I said to Simone when I met her, you know, I mean, I
didn't really know you.
We met accidentally, you know, I was with Leigh and Simone was coming around the post office and he said, "Oh, this is Simone." And I go, "Oh my God, yes, it is Simone." And when I got to sit down to talk to her, I said, "You know, Simone, you know, when I was that age, you know, as whatever I thought I was totally intimidated by you, right?" It was like, no, I mean, it was
but
like,
he's not the only man to have said that.
No, but I mean it in, I mean, yeah, but I meant it, I don't mean it in the way that often men talk about that. I was just too, I'd come right out of boarding school and,
Yeah,
you know.
you were very shy. I remember you being very
Well,
shy. I remember one day because the Somme was an espresso bar, wasn't it? And it had, do you remember the sign in the window? It had a red neon sign just inside the door saying espresso.
Can't remember that.
No?
I remember the sombrero painted on the window.
Yeah. Well, on the
Was it on the
that
side
was front,
glass?
It was on the side.
It was on the side glass.
Yeah.
And then the door.
Yeah. And Lesley, somebody, I can't remember her surname. She married Fred Binney.
Okay.
She was sitting on the seats sort of opposite this glass, and Tony Carney was there, and a few others, Nick Towers and people like that, and the sun was shining through the window and the espresso was shining here, and it just said press across the shelf. And Tony said, "Don't mind if I do."
Frothy coffee.
Yeah, coffee.
And they used to serve it in those Pyrex sort of see-through glasses.
Yeah.
That was so exotic. I mean, how many of us spent any money in there? I mean, if we were forced to pay that shilling,
But isn't
you
that
had
why
to
they
spend
charged
it.
you to get in there, because they
nobody
just
used to buy
knew
anything.
you
Nobody
would
used
just
to
sit
buy
there and
anything.
smoke cigarettes and share a coffee or something.
And you'd go home and you'd have this wonderful aroma of onions.
Onions,
And you never wanted
cigarettes,
to wash your
and,
jumper because
yeah.
it just stunk of fags and onions. And you think, yes, I've been in the sun. You know.
Yeah. If you had any money, you put it in the jukebox.
But I used to go
Yeah.
into the Tarantula a lot because they used to have a really good pinball machine in there. And the guy, Tony, who used to come in and empty the money, he always used to give me about 6 games for free. You know, and I'd always win on it anyway. And then the whole nuts used to rehearse in the basement.
Yeah, so I remember going downstairs to watch them.
I can remember Charlie Dance with the pinball machine in the Somme, having a knife downside to fiddle the flippers. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He'll always deny that ever happened.
Yeah, of course he will.
Yeah.
But we thought it was great. It was so cool, you know, wasn't it? Yeah. He had no money. And
But somebody must have been putting money in that jukebox.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
The management wasn't playing the jukebox for free all the time, were they?
No.
That's what I mean. If we had any money, we didn't buy the food or the coffee, did we? It would go in the jukebox. Yeah, go in the jukebox.
Yeah. I think was it sixpence, or you got 3 for a shilling or something.
That sounds about
Something
right.
like
That
that,
sounds
wasn't
right.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good jukebox.
There was there 3? There was one in the far corner, one halfway up, was it? And there was another one by the door.
There's
Is that
one by
right?
the door, definitely.
Yeah, but I think there was one halfway up because there was just sort of like a bamboo half
Yeah.
bit that jutted out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there was one there, and then there was one in the far corner where the pinball machine. I can't remember the pinball machine being there all the time, but it was there
Later.
later.
My first Saturday job was the Magnet Restaurant, run by the Williams family. And they used to queue to come in, and they never kept windows open because it would blow the gas jets out. 3 weeks I survived because I fainted. I actually passed out, it was so hot. And you took your lunch up on the flat roof, because all those buildings in Cornwall Street or George Street are flat roofed, aren't they? And you could have 1 lump of ice cream. I mean, they were mean, really. 3 weeks, and then Richard Henry's hairdresser shop.
Oh, right.
So I learned cutting, perming and colouring.
Wow.
And I used to do Tuesdays and Thursdays when the people used to come in as models.
Yeah.
And I dyed somebody's hair orange. She didn't like it very much. That's all right. They corrected it. You know, a trained hairstylist corrected it. But I left it on too long. It was this bright orange. I said, it's nice. And I loved it. And then I was offered an apprenticeship. And Mum said, no, you've got to do your O-levels. So I had to stay on at school. She was a hairdresser, my mum. Yeah, sure, she had been. She didn't want me to be one. But I always thought, they reckon it's one of the best jobs to have, being a hairdresser. It's because you have people coming in, because people come in looking rough and you send them out looking lovely.
that's true.
The happiness factor is quite big.
Yeah, but it's hard work. I mean, on your hands.
Well, you're on your feet.
A lot of hairdressers get
But they-
arthritis and stuff like that.
It's to be one of the main sort of like job satisfaction jobs, you know. But I always thought if you knew how to cut, you could take your scissors and go anywhere and
Well,
work.
exactly, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world.
And if you're a good colourist, you get a job anywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, didn't
There you
happen.
go.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have got a job as a colourist.
No, I
would
went
you?
in the civil
Let's face
service.
it. Orange.
Orange.
I worked, I think, I think I did a washing up job in El Toro restaurant, Frankfurt Gate. And it just shows how naive you are. I used to be very interested in Spain and flamenco and Spanish poets and, you know, Lorca and all that sort of people. And I was absolutely in love with Spain, and it was really owned by Spanish people, you know, because it could have been called El Toro and owned by, you know, anybody. But I told them I'd go and work for nothing, what a fool, you know. But I didn't. They did pay me, not very much, but and yeah, washing up dishes. Gosh, 15 years old, yeah.